Imagine Fromville not as a haunted town, but as a massive electrical grid with no grounding rod. In our world, the earth absorbs grief. In Fromville, the soil is covered in metaphysical asphalt. It rejects decay, causing emotional energy to bounce back and turn the residents into living capacitors. Today we decode the hysteresis of the town, why the clocks in the kitchen and the clinic are actually voltage meters, and why the monsters only breach when your psychological pressure reaches its breaking point. Imagine Fromville not as a haunted town, but rather as a sprawling electrical grid that's short-circuiting. In a well-functioning system, there's a grounding rod that allows excess energy to flow safely into the earth. In our world, we process trauma, lay our loved ones to rest, and eventually, the energy of grief seeps back into the soil. But Fromville is different. It lacks grounding. In a typical environment, grief settles, memories fade, and trauma diminishes. The earth absorbs the heavy, unprocessed remnants of our experiences and slowly restores balance. In contrast, Fromville's soil rejects decay. Bodies linger, objects retain energy, and rooms hold memories, leaving nothing to complete its natural cycle. The ground is covered with a metaphysical asphalt that's non-porous, refusing to soak up even a drop of the town's suffering. As a result, the energy has nowhere to go, causing it to bounce back and turn residents and their homes into unwilling capacitors. Each tragedy becomes an involuntary release of a system that can no longer hold its breath. So the system adapts. If the earth can't ground the energy, the residents must step in. They become living grounding rods, while the clocks, they aren't just timers, they function as voltage meters. Picture an electrical system without a path to the earth. Current flows, but there's nowhere for it to discharge. Pressure builds in walls, metal, and human skin. Fromville operates in this way. Trauma accumulates, rooms store energy, and houses act as capacitors. That's why key spaces like the kitchen, clinic, office, and colony house entrance always feature clocks. The architecture isn't just decorative, it's diagnostic. When the soil can't absorb, the structure takes on the burden. When the structure becomes saturated, it knocks 3 times. The town doesn't strike randomly, it follows a mechanical process called hysteresis, the delay between applying a load and the material's response. A clock appears at a specific hour, registering the character's dominant frequency, be it dragon, horse, goat, or snake. Voltage is applied, tagging them with their primary frequency, horse, snake, or goat. The same hour reappears and the pressure mounts. The character feels tension, ego tightens, fear spikes, relationship strain, and the volume of their emotions rises. This stress test asks, are you flexible enough to adapt, or will you remain rigid? If the character hasn't leaked that energy through growth or confession, the capacitor reaches saturation. The energy must go somewhere, resulting in a monster breach, a critical mistake, or a mental collapse. If rigidity persists, stress exceeds tolerance. Because the earth can't absorb the charge, discharge occurs through the weakest path, often a person. This is hysteresis, a delayed reaction under load. The material doesn't break instantly, it deforms, warns, resists, and then ultimately fails unless it adapts. Stress equals force divided by area. If flexibility decreases, stress surges. If flexibility increases, the same force spreads harmlessly. That's the only escape clause in this system. Tianchen, representing heaven and morning, stands in the kitchen, the most transformative room in any home. It's where the raw becomes cooked, cold transforms into warmth, and separation shifts to sharing. The Liu family embodies the town's greatest irony. Their name means to flow, yet they find themselves trapped in a blocked world. Tianchen's kitchen was the town's most efficient domestic reactor, marked by the goat hour, the time of transition from light to dark. Her death wasn't merely a plot twist, it was akin to a system fuse blowing. She was the town's most conductive node, and when collective pressure became overwhelming, the system used her to release the charge. An hour doesn't confine a character, it amplifies them. If Boyd stands in horse hour, he experiences heightened pride, authority, and momentum. The system turns up the volume on those traits. If he clings to control, the amplified ego destabilizes his plans. But if he softens, that amplified strength serves as protection. The hour acts like a spotlight, illuminating whatever traits are present. If a clock runs backward in the future, it signals a critical failure, a backwashing of energy. When confession occurs, charge is released safely. If someone cries, admits a truth, or changes behavior, that's voluntary discharge. However, if they remain rigid through 3 cycles, the system arcs. An arc discharge manifests as a monster breach, a spatial rupture, or a death at precisely the wrong moment, a hallucination that feels all too real. It's stored voltage, seeking the only remaining path. If a clock stops, the capacitor is full. That frequency can't accept more charge, signaling an imminent release tied to that hour's character. Backwashing means the accumulated energy beneath the asphalt is violently forced upward. Symptoms may include shared visions, temporal bleeding, and multiple characters experiencing layered realities simultaneously, past events surfacing into the present. This wouldn't be an individual arc, but rather a system event. It's not punishment, it's reassignment. If Boyd transitions from leadership hours to trickster hours, his arc shifts from commander to manipulated strategist. Watch for new hour repetitions. 1 appearance is noise, 2 is a warning, and 3 signifies redefinition. If characters repeat their rigidity and encounter the 3rd amplification, the system faces deterministic stress collapse. But if one character, under a 3rd appearance, chooses differently, confessing, bending, relinquishing ego, and surviving the amplification, then Fromville transforms from a prison into a pressure engine testing elasticity. That distinction is crucial. An ungrounded system can only lead to destruction if every component refuses to flex. If even one learns to conduct rather than resist, the voltage has an outlet, suggesting that the asphalt isn't permanent. It's merely a condition, and conditions can change.